Hi, Peter. Welcome to Coffee and Crypto.
Yeah, thank you.
I hear that you're one of the first developers, like the first original group that was involved with Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, there's first, and then there's first, and then there's another first, and then another first.
Amongst the firsts.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, I actually was talking about some of the stuff with, like Adam Back and Hal Finney back in high school. So
wow.
I actually had, quite a strong interest in cryptocurrencies from quite a young age. I mean, my dad's an economist. I was very interested in like digital privacy and digital freedom stuff. So I'd love to see a digital currency. When I finally saw Bitcoin, probably in late 2009, I was like, I really should have thought of that.
Well, you discovered it very early.
Yep.
How did you discover it?
Well, I don't really remember. I mean, I think some friend of mine might have sent me a link to the white paper or something. But I was in like university and at a startup, so I didn't really get involved till more like 2012, 2013. So
you could see that this was the future, because still at this day, when Bitcoin has such a high price, people still speculate about it. Some don't trust it, but you saw it and you identified it and you trusted it since the beginning.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure trusted it would be the right word, but I definitely thought it was interesting, and I definitely thought it had potential. Although, if anything, I mean, my experience with Bitcoin was, like many people, they see Bitcoin and think, this will never work. They read the white paper and they assume there's no way this will ever work. Whereas me, I think, because I'd already been thinking about this stuff, my first reaction was, oh yeah, of course this works, this solves it all. And it was only later that I started thinking about how to attack it. And that's when I really got into more of the protocol analysis side of things and figuring out, does this thing really scale, for instance? I mean, is it secure, and so on.
So tell us a little bit more about that trajectory from here to now. It must be very interesting.
Well, I mean, kind of early on, I remember kind of realizing, this stuff doesn't scale, and the trust model means that if we want, say, have Visa scale transactions, I mean, it's just not going to work. You need to stay decentralized, and that's kind of when I early on started talking publicly with Gavin and Drayson about this, and published some initial results, like showing, for instance, that with an unlimited block size, miners had an incentive to publish blocks big enough that their competitors would get forced out of the market because they couldn't process the data fast enough. Right there, that's a trajectory towards one entity controlling it. So I saw that as a major problem. I started working on solutions. My initial stuff was off-chain transactions and coming up with ways to make them more auditable, which frankly I think Lightning did a much better job of it than I ever did. But more lately I've been working on figuring out how to go and scale blockchains for all kind of purposes, including things, say, linked to Bitcoin for other purposes.
So tell us about the scalability of Bitcoin and the altcoins.
Well, I mean, really, this all comes down to the fact that in Bitcoin's security model, miners and everyone else validating have to validate the whole thing. Well, I mean, let's suppose we have n different people using Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. They all do one transaction. They all now have to go verify everyone else's transaction to get n-squared scaling. So right there, because it's all in one place, it doesn't scale, people will start trusting others to do the verification for them. In altcoins, in a way you can look at them as a really crude way of scaling. But it's because it's so crude, I mean, I could go joke, I paid for this coffee with Bcash, but of course I didn't, because no one accepts Bcash.
Well, maybe in the future. How soon do you think businesses will start using other coins besides Bitcoin for maybe buying a cup of coffee?
Well, I think the answer to that is really, I'm sure some will, but ultimately, if that happens on a big scale, we failed to scale Bitcoin. And I think hopefully we'll get Lightning giving us some breathing room fairly soon. And they're already at the point where, I mean, I personally have done Lightning transactions, paying for articles on, I'm sure what the name of the website is, Yours or something, or Ours, or some crazy Bitcoin name. But, and the tech works. It's not perfect. It might get us, say, 2 orders of magnitude scaling. But then I think at that point, hopefully we'll then figure out how to actually make blockchain scale. And that's some of the research I'm working on. Of course, if we fail to do that, then yeah, I mean, who knows how many different options you're going to get, including, very trusted ones. I mean, the reality is, if Bcash, for instance, was used to its full potential, with full blocks, very few people would be actually validating. Or if, Bitcoin Unlimited is even worse. I mean, their vision is gigabyte blocks. People aren't going to be validating gigabyte blocks. You're not going to have a decentralized network. You have a very small number of people controlling it.
So now Bitcoin has become a bit more mainstream. It has become the day that everyone's talking about it. What kind of advice would you give people just hearing about Bitcoin for the first time?
Well, I mean, my economist dad always liked to go and tell me about the efficient market theory, which is basically if you're not insider to something, chances are you're not going to get a return by doing anything but diversifying your assets as broadly as possible, because other people are smarter than you. So yeah, I mean, you could try investing in Bitcoin, but you really got to ask yourself why. Are you just chasing returns because other people say it's going up? Or is there something unique to Bitcoin that fits your strategy? I mean, maybe you want to protect wealth in the case your local government goes bankrupt. But if all you want to do is just see a number go higher, I don't know, maybe you should just throw some money in index funds and put, say, 5% in Bitcoin or something.
So you feel that people should really study about the technology before investing in anything?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to make an investment decision that's not based on just diversification, then you better have a good reason for it. And in something like Bitcoin, it means understanding the tech, having an advantage over other investors, or having a good reason, such as you want something special that Bitcoin provides. I mean, after all, if you live in, say, North Korea, your ways of investing may be very limited, and you may be wise to put a whole lot of money in Bitcoin if you can do it. Whereas in Canada, where I'm from, frankly, the country's pretty boring. I mean, if I put my money in an index fund, it's probably going to still be there.
And if you weren't doing Bitcoin, what would you be doing?
I can actually really easily answer that, because I quit my previous day job, which was I was an analog electronics designer, and I was at a startup doing geophysics, basically trying to make a new type of gravity sensor.
That's very interesting.
The funny thing is, a lot of it's not that dissimilar, but the speed at which it progresses is just so different. The entire time I worked in analog electronics, I couldn't tell you a single thing that had changed. I mean, I literally used textbooks from the 1920s sometimes as reference material, whereas in Bitcoin, everything's changed.
Yeah, it's a very exciting moment. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome.